Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust or 1031 exchange, is one of the most amazing ways for you to create and preserve more wealth, defer capital gains taxes on the sale of high-end primary homes, cryptocurrencies, businesses, so you can create and preserve more wealth or help your clients, friends, and family do the same. Hey, we're also streaming expert CRE secrets for our commercial real estate and residential agents out there that are looking to level up their game. So thank you for joining us. If you're watching on YouTube or listening to on iTunes, we appreciate you out there. By the way, for those who don't know me, my name is Brett Swarts, and I am the founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions. I'm also a multifamily broker. And each episode, we love to bring on some of the best in real estate, finance, tax, or anything else to help you create and preserve more wealth, where they can share their ideas, deal stories, and inspirations. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. I'm excited about our next guest. He's out of the state of Washington, and he has a passion to help educate and inspire you and your family to be able a chance to retire and take action to achieve clarity, confidence, and freedom in your retirement. Too many retirees, in his own words, lose their hard-earned nest egg because they never create a solid retirement plan that really addresses what their goals are for their life and retirement. And so he's really focused on helping you to leave a legacy for your children and grandchildren, and perhaps doing some of the things you really enjoy most, like traveling and enjoying life to the fullest. Please welcome to the show with me, Jason Parker. Jason, how are you doing today?
Brett, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me as a guest on your show. I love your shirt, Tax Flow. We're always teaching our clients retirement's all about cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. But you're right. It's not just cash flow. It's how much money you get to keep after Uncle Sam takes their slice of the pie. So that's
Absolutely.
good.
Absolutely. We'll be talking about that, by the way, retirement planning made easy. And if you want to learn more about Jason right now, you can take action by going to retirementbudgetcalculator.com. That's retirementbudgetcalculator.com. But before we go there, Jason, I want to take one other step back. I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life, and these gifts have been given to us to be a blessing and help to others. So I'm curious, Jason, what would you say that one or two strengths that you were given, and how does that help how you help and bless people today?
Well, I found that I have the ability to tell stories and take areas that can be complicated and simplify them down. So one area that I think I've been blessed is just the ability to share stories and simplify ideas.
That's a great gift.
And the way that we use that is through the podcast that I do, the books that I've written, and now the software that we've created to help simplify people's financial life as they're getting ready for retirement. I love that question, by the way.
Yeah, and I love that because it makes sense for everything you're doing, right? To be able to simplify the complex, to and weave it into a story, right? Because it's like the human brain, right? We can absorb more if it's story versus just facts and figures and numbers, right? Which can get a bit complicated. And so I love the ability to weave the message through a story as well as make the complex simple. That being in mind, Jason, let's dive right in. What's the number one secret to retirement planning made easy?
Well, like I said, retirement is all about cash flow. And we have simplified this entire process down to three numbers. Number one is how long are you going to live? Number two is how much money have you saved? And number three is how much money do you spend? And so when you really have a clear understanding of those three numbers, Brett, retirement really isn't that complicated. There's a lot of moving parts in there. There's things like tax planning and tax strategies and Roth conversions and withdrawal order and when to start Social Security. I mean, there's a lot of little nuances in there, but ultimately it really boils down to those three numbers. How long are you going to live? How much money have you saved? And how much money do you spend? And that's what we did in the retirement budget calculators. We made it super simple for people to understand those three numbers.
Excellent. Jason Parker, the number one secret, it sounds like it's really kind of simple, breaking down these three questions. And if you're listening, you want to know, hey, how long are you going to live, right? I'm 39, almost 40 this year, right? I think the average life expectancy for a male in America is something like 78. I think it's female 83, although I'm hoping to go to at least 100, right? So you might want to keep that in mind. Number two, how much have you actually saved to date, right? And then number three, how much do you spend or you anticipate spending? Is that a fair summary so far, Jason?
So far, yeah. The funny thing about life expectancy is the longer you live, the longer you're going to live. So you nailed it. For a guy your age, 78 is probably how long Social Security would tell you life expectancy is. But the good news is the longer you live, the longer your life expectancy is going to be. So there's hope there that you're going to maybe probably live a little bit longer. In the retirement budget calculator, we use the Social Security mortality tables to give people a starting point for life expectancy. But we also give them the ability to do a hereditary adjustment so that you can say if your family has a history of everybody living to 90 or 95, or you think you're going to make it to 100, you can plug those numbers in if you want to override the averages.
Got it. In a minute, we're gonna actually go live on the retirement budgetcalculator.com to actually kind of show this, but that's going to be here in a few minutes. But in the meantime, let's dive into the number 2 secret, Jason. What's the number 2 secret to retirement planning made easy?
Well, so we talked about it at the very beginning, which is retirement's all about cash flow. And it's not necessarily how much you've saved, because I've met lots of people that have Social Security and pension. They don't have a lot saved, but because they've kept their expenses and their lifestyle real simple, they live very comfortably with just their Social Security and their pension. So it's not necessarily that you need a big bucket of money to draw from. That's what a lot of people have today, because a lot of people don't have pensions. But one of the things I like about the work that you're doing is you're talking about how to use real estate to generate cash flow, and then how to do that in a tax efficient way. And so I've met plenty of people over the years where their biggest investment has been in real estate. They've got real estate that's positive cash flow, and they're able to live very comfortably off of that real estate. So I'm a big fan of real estate as a cash flow source. One of the reasons I like it, it's predictable, it's inflation adjusted, tends to be tax efficient. So I definitely think, and one of the things we did within our calculator was we built it so that people that are real estate investors, or people that are depending on cash flow from real estate, can incorporate that into their cash flow plan. So again, retirement is really all about cash flow. It's your income that determines your lifestyle in retirement, not your net worth. And so it's just making sure that you have enough cash flow coming in to cover all of your expenses.
Makes perfect sense. It's all about cash flow, right? You want to make sure we can get that consistent, durable cash flow, perhaps in a diversified portfolio of some real estate and some securities and some other things. So perhaps as you do risk tolerances, you work with people with their comfort level. Yeah, and I love that. You know, we do love real estate, especially for the tax flow portion of it, where you can depreciate some of that income, right? Or some of that cash flow, so that you can be in a more tax efficient state. It's one of the best ways to build wealth. And we like to say, yeah, it's no longer just about cash flow, it's about tax flow. And that's always been about both. But guess what, Jason? The times have seemed to be, especially the last 10 years, government spending at an all-time record high, over, I think, 31 trillion now in US debt. And taxes don't appear to be going lower anytime soon. So talk about, how much the importance of the tax flow planning that you're coming in here with your clients, and how you're helping them with that.
Incredibly important. Well, so in the calculator, what we've done is we've given people that, there's a lot of nuance within retirement. Again, it really boils down to those 3 numbers, but there are a lot of things like Social Security is very tax efficient cash flow. Then also the withdrawal order, how you choose to take money out in retirement, is going to impact a lot of different things, like how much money you're going to pay for health insurance leading up to age 65 if you retire early, or if you get clobbered with extra Medicare premiums as a result of having too much taxable income. And so there's a lot of little nuance when it comes to taxes and retirement planning. At the end of the day, what we're trying to help people do is have clarity, confidence, and freedom. Clarity to know what's most important in their life, confidence to know the numbers are going to work, and freedom so they can go out and live their best life and spend their time with the people that are most important to them, doing the things that are most important. So, but taxes are big part of this, like you said, Brett, because it doesn't matter how much income you have, it's about how much you get to keep after you have to pay those taxes. So in the retirement budget calculator specifically, one of the things we do is we estimate your federal income taxes every year based on the data that you input. And then we also give you the ability to assign withdrawal orders. So you have the ability to actually say, hey, when I first retire, I want to dip into my brokerage account, my checking account, and my Roth IRA equally, and spread those distributions over those different types of accounts that you're going to be withdrawing from.
Fantastic, Jason. Absolutely love that. And by the way, we're here at retirementbudgetcalculator.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the website. Will you be ready to retire? Can you retire? And the retirement budget calc can help you estimate your budget, life expectancy, net worth, taxes, which are all strategies, Roth, conversions, ultimately answer to the question, can I retire? Retirementbudgetcalculator.com. Pretty cool. Now, so is this something where you sign up? It's a no cost calculator. Looks like there's some pricing. Or walk us through, if someone wants to take some action right now, what it is that they could do to get started, Jason.
Yeah, it depends on where they're at in their life. So we really designed the calculator for people that are within 5 years of retirement. But people that are younger, so 25-year-old, 30-year-old, they don't really need the forecasting that the calculator does. But what they could use help with is budgeting. So the tool is a freemium tool, meaning that you can sign up for free for a lifetime to have access to the free tools. So if really all you're trying to do is get a good handle on your budgeting, the free version of the calculator is going to be great to help you organize your spending and track your net worth. For those people that are getting close to retirement, the question that they're really trying to answer is, am I going to be okay? Have I saved enough? Can we retire? Can we afford this? And there's a lot of moving parts. You've got inflation, and you're going to spend probably more on travel the early years of retirement, and then those expenses are going to go away, and you're going to have taxes that have to be accounted for. So if you're looking for the more advanced features, you can subscribe and pay either $9.95 a month, which you can cancel at any time, or you can subscribe for an annual subscription and pay $95 a year. One of the things we do in the calculator that's pretty cool is we have a community portal built into the calculator so that like-minded people, smart, intelligent, tend to be pretty, people that are they've done a good job preparing for retirement. They can share ideas back and forth, and there's power in community. And so that's one of the things that we built into the calculator.
Fantastic. This is really great. And that's retirementbudgetcalculator.com. I love that you're also helping the younger generation to do the second, thing that you said was part of the first secret, which is how much have you saved, right? And if you're not budgeting, then how do you even know how much you're saving? If you're saving at all, if you even have a plan for that. So I think that's fantastic. What question haven't I asked about as far as the best secret to making sure that you have a retirement, basically plan that's simple or easy that maybe you wanted to expand on or you want to add?
But I don't know who your audience is. I don't know who tends to listen to your show. I do a podcast called Sound Retirement Radio, and we have a little over 1 million downloads now on our podcast. But our listeners tend to be people 55 plus that are getting ready for retirement. But I had the opportunity to speak at a local high school to talk about the power of compounding. And a lot of these kids that I was talking to were 17 and 18 years old. And what I showed them, I said, look, you guys, if you will just get started today with $200, put $200 into an investment account and commit to putting $200 a month in every month, just buy an index fund, keep it really simple, buy the entire US stock market index. In 40 years, assuming that the market continues to operate the way that it has in the past, where you average about 10% per year, that $200 initial investment with $200 a month will have grown to, when they're 57 years old, they will have almost $1.1 million saved for retirement. If they wait 10 years, so if they don't get started at 17, but they start at 27, instead of having $1.1 million at age 57, they only have $398,000. So for the young kids, I really want to inspire them to get started early. And the thing that I've learned about wealth accumulation is it really doesn't matter how much money you make. It's all about how much money you spend. And until you tell your money what to do at the beginning of every month, instead of wondering where your money went at the end of every month, you're never going to start to win at finance. And so that's why we wanted to make the budgeting portion of the tool free, so that people of all ages that are really just trying to understand finance can have a good plan for telling their money what to do at the beginning of every month. That piece is free. But the people that want to transition into retirement, it's all about cash flow. It's about making sure that your income matches up with your expenses, that you're going to account for taxes, that you can account for things like long-term care, what happens when one spouse dies. And you just want to model all of this out. And we've done this for people one-on-one in the past, but the problem I ran into, and you're probably going to run into these same issues if you haven't already, but what happens is, as your audience grows, as you write the books and the podcast audience increases, you just don't have the capacity to work with everybody that's in the country. We've got 10,000 people a day who are retiring in America right now. The only way that I could see that we could help more people was not just through the education with the podcast and the book, but also to build software to help people see the numbers for themselves. And it's it's a way to save some money too, because it can be expensive to get advice.
Very well said. So good. The law of compounding interest, which leads into the next part of the show where we dive into some of the biggest frustrations when it comes to like the 1031 exchange and not having the ability to diversify into something like an index fund in the top 500 companies in America, right? So I'm curious, in your experience, what have you found to be the biggest frustrations when it comes to the 1031 exchange?
I love that you asked this question. I have some of my best friends have made most of their wealth in real estate. And I think one of the things that people need to be thinking about when it comes to the 1031 exchange or real estate investing in general is, again, it's a great way to accumulate wealth. It's a great retirement planning strategy because of the tax efficient cash flow. But what I found is that at some point in people's lives, they don't want to have to manage the responsibility of being a business owner anymore. And when you own real estate, you have responsibility. You're a business owner. Now, I know you can outsource it and hire property managers and what have you, but my experience is that when people get to 75, 80 years old, they just don't want to deal with the headaches and the hassles anymore. So they're looking for that liquidity event when that happens. And if you've got real estate that's highly appreciated, like you say, you're not looking to 1031 anymore, you're looking to exit real estate. And that's when people can get hit with big tax hits. So oftentimes what happens is people say, well, geez, if I hold on to the real estate and just die with it, I get stepped up basis. And so rather than creating the liquidity event, they just hold on to the real estate. And in many cases, it makes sense. The cash flow that I see coming off real estate, when we evaluate it, we say, look, if we sell this piece of real estate, you take out all the fees and all the taxes, and we have this net after-tax amount, are we going to be able to take that money and go regenerate the income that was coming in from the real estate? And oftentimes, that's not possible. So in many instances, keeping the real estate is really the best strategy just from a cash flow standpoint. Because again, retirement is all about cash flow. It's all about making sure you've got enough income to make it to the end of your life and that you don't run out of money in retirement.
Yeah, so we call that the 1031 exchange tends to be the blockbuster way of exit planning and or just not even exiting, like you're saying, because it's a primary home that doesn't qualify for a 1031. It's cryptocurrency, it's a business sale, but let alone it is real estate and it's toilet trash and liability. And people feel trapped and they want to sell. They know it's a good time to sell, but they don't want to stay in that 45, 180 window where they're trading 18 units for 36 units. I had a client in Sacramento, Jason. I know you mentioned you lived in Auburn at one point for a number of years, and I think you grew up here, and I grew up in Roseville, Auburn area.
Yeah.
And this client, he was driving to South Sacramento. And you probably know about South Sacramento, right? It can be kind of tough. Yeah. He's driving from Marin County, and he's about 70. His name's Peter, and he's driving 2-3 hours in traffic. Marin County to Sacramento is not an easy, traffic place to get through. And he's doing like 2-3 times a week. And I sat down with him and I said, well, Peter, why don't you just do a 1031 exchange, And we had presented the Deferred Sales Trust and the Delaware Statutory Trust and a 1031. And he goes, Brett, here's why. I have 18 problems right now. I don't need 36 problems. He goes, I've made multiple millions and I have a durable cash flow. And what we can do with the Deferred Sales Trust is not only sell, but we can defer that tax like an IRA or 401k in that scenario, redeploy into investment grade securities, diversify my wealth, and get the cash flow slowly over time, pay tax. In other words, we call it the Netflix way of exit planning. It's the best of both worlds where you don't have to stay locked into real estate, but you also get that liquidity and that diversification. And even more important, you can pay off debt. You see, he had gone through the '08 crisis and he had too much debt and not enough liquidity on diversification. And he said he almost lost multiple properties. He barely held on. So think about that stress going on when you're about 60 years old. Now you're 70, you're looking at this thing happening maybe again, and you're going, I want to get out. I don't want to wait till I'm dead and, stepped up basis. I want to retire and enjoy my freedoms now. People want to learn more about that. You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. We're on a mission to help you and or your clients exit and obtain some of the freedoms I talked about with Peter, and not ever have to feel trapped by capital gains tax or the 1031 exchange. So go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. So Jason, any thoughts on anything I just said right there?
The only thing that pops into my mind is this is actually probably a really good time in the history of capital gains to pay long-term capital gains. So just in terms of where we're at in the long-term capital gains game, tax rates are set to go up in 2026 unless Congress does something. So, paying long-term capital gains, whether you're at 0% or 15 or even 20%, I don't think it's a horrible time to pay capital gains. And so I know some of my friends that have been investing in real estate, they have taken some chips off the table when it comes to real estate before, and they could kind of see this interest rate increase coming, right? And they said, look, we had some ridiculous growth in real estate the last 2 to 3 years. And so I saw them scaling back and taking some gains. Now, the other thing, though, that I saw was they also had some losses in 2022 in their stock portfolio. And so they were able to take some long-term capital losses to help offset some of those gains. And that's a good strategy as well. But yeah, I listened to some of your podcasts, actually, Brett, this idea of using installment sales within a trust to spread the tax liability out. So it's interesting. I'm definitely interested in learning more about the work you do.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you're right. For some states, it makes more sense. I totally agree with you on like the Washingtons or the Texas or the Floridas. There's some states that have, no capital gains tax or no state income tax. California, unfortunately, where you lived, has 13.3 for the state. Then you have the federal of 20, and then you have Obamacare at 3.8. So the actual numbers as long as it's $1 million net proceeds and $1 million gain, which is our minimum, tend to be at least 24, 25 is the minimum, no matter what state you're in, unless you're in Puerto Rico. And then up to 50% with depreciation recapture. It goes even above and beyond. And so, yeah, the numbers have to make sense. You have to have enough pain, enough tax, enough gain to actually use the strategy. But if the numbers work, it's kind of like running a marathon, right? As you know, right? It's kind of like the compounding interest. If I start when I'm 17 versus when I'm 27, if I can have an extra 30 or 40 or 50% of my proceeds working for me, right, I can perhaps get back time. I don't have to wait till I'm 65 to retire. We've helped a veterinarian just do this recently. And he said, I wanted to retire earlier to spend some more time with my family. And he goes, what the Deferred Sales Trust gave him back was time, because he didn't have to wait for the value of the practice to go to, like, say, 5 million. And net 3, he could sell it at 3 right now and save 5 or 6 years of his life. And so these are some of the cool things to think about on that side as well. That being said, we're running out of time. Are you ready for the lightning round?
All right, brother, give it to me.
All right. Knowing what you know now, Jason Parker, if you could go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget you'd make sure to tell yourself to do?
Well, life is all about relationships, and I would just make sure that I'm paying attention to those relationships and fostering those relationships. One of the things I've found, Brett, is that, the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, it rings true for the relationships that we have as well. And so I found that 80% of the relationships that I have are a result of 20% of the people. And so when you identify who those 20% of the people are that are responsible for this richness in life, I would protect those relationships with everything, and just really make sure you're savoring those relationships and just appreciating them.
Very well said. Question number 2, what's the number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
Well, I'm a Christian, so my default answer there is the Bible. However, it depends. Like when I got a chance to speak to the high school kids, if it's about wealth accumulation, I would tell them that Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is a good one, especially for the understanding the power of a mastermind and the people that you surround yourself with. And then James Allen wrote a very small book called As a Man Thinketh back in 1910. Interesting story. And so that book is all about our thinking. If you plant tomato seeds, you grow tomatoes. And if you consume too much social media, you end up with a life that's full of unhealthy stuff from what I'm seeing in society. So, I think you just have to protect your mind. And James Allen talked about that. And his book, As a Man Thinketh, is based on Proverbs 23:7, or at least the title is, which is as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, is the full verse. So those are 3 books that come to mind.
Amazing. Absolutely love it. Question number 3, what are you most curious about right now?
Right now, in this moment, I'm most curious about marketing. I'm curious about how it is that you get the word. We've created something really powerful, really good, and we want to share that with people. And we have thousands of people that have signed up for the Retirement Budget Calculator. But I guess right now I'm just always thinking about how do we tell more people about this really cool thing that we created.
Very cool. Second to last question, what's your favorite leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Discipline has been a word that's been coming up a lot lately, and there is I just finished a book by Ryan Holiday about discipline, And two of my favorite quotes on discipline, one comes from Abraham Lincoln. He says, discipline is understanding the difference, knowing the difference between what you want now versus what you want most. That was one. And then Jim Rohn is one of my favorites on discipline. He says, all men will experience pain, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The pain of discipline weighs an ounce, and the pain of regret weighs a ton. So discipline are two things, and it's something that we teach people from an investment standpoint. When we're helping them, it's really good to have a good plan and a good strategy. But if you're bouncing all over the place and you can't stay disciplined with the investment approach that you created, you're always either running to the good times or running away from the bad times. You're not going to have a very successful experience. So discipline is the word that I've been thinking about a lot lately.
Very well said. Last question for you, Jason. After all your success, helping all the people you've helped, and all the good that you're doing in the world, how do you stay centered in your values, and how do you stay encouraged to charge forward to reach new heights?
Well, it goes back to my faith. So, I feel like in the verse, Matthew 25, the parable of the talents, where each of the servants had been given something. One was given a lot, one was given a little bit, and one was given hardly anything. The one that was given hardly anything, he said, I was afraid, so I buried what was given to me, and I, waited for your return. And the consequences were extreme. There was casting out into darkness and gnashing of teeth. And so when I hear that, I just think, man, you cannot let fear be what drives your decisions. And to give, you were born in America with no disabilities, with nothing holding you back. You've got to give it everything you've got with everything you've got. And then when you adopt this mentality of you're not in competition with anybody, you're just trying to help as many people as possible, all of a sudden you're operating in a different realm than the rest of the world, because everybody else is playing this game where they're trying to beat one another. And as soon as you start playing the game of, look, I don't care about anybody else, all I care about is helping people, it changes everything. So I'm excited to have the opportunity to be in America, to be blessed the way that I have been, to be able to go out and do stuff to help people.
Jason Parker, it's been more than a pleasure having you on the show, on the podcast, on the YouTube channel. I want to encourage you to keep using the gifts you've been given, which is making the complex simple, weaving into stories to help people to take action and understand things in a very digestible way. I feel like I can plan my retirement even better now, which is really exciting and cool. And I love that you were on the show. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, could you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
I would tell them to check out the retirementbudgetcalculator.com. If they want to listen to the podcast, it's Sound Retirement Radio. If they want to read my newest book, is called Retirement Calculator, How Much Money Do I Need to Retire? So those are a couple of different places that we could connect.
Amazing. Thank you, Jason Parker. I also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. Again, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust, or getting with someone like Jason Parker to plan and budget and get everything in order for your retirement is one of the best ways for you to create, preserve more wealth. If you want to learn more about the Deferred Sales Trust or 1031 exchanges, or even Delaware Statutory Trust and how we can help you today, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Also, check out the new book that's coming out soon. We have some amazing people like Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. We have some multifamily syndicators, some financial advisors in the book as well. Really, really neat book. In fact, the title is actually going to change a little bit. It's going to be called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. So this is just like the proof here if you're seeing the video, but the same type of cover is going to be on Amazon soon. So check that out. Please rate or review or subscribe or all three, but really do us a real favor and share this with someone who can make an impact for and be an inspiration for. We so appreciate everyone out there.